Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another Define on TikTok Live with myself, Caitlin. And specifically today, I want to welcome you all to our Classes with Caitlin. It is our last session for setting up Section 1. Now, if you're new here, let me just explain to you that Classes with Caitlin are guided planning sessions designed to help you confidently fill out your 2026 planner page by page with purpose. During the classes, I have been walking you through how to use and set up each part of Section 1 in the Define Planner to help you clarify your goals and also show you how to turn your intentions into an organized, realistic plan for the year ahead. So the goal for by the end of these classes is to help you have not just a planner, but one that you know exactly how to use to support your life, your goals, and your next chapter. So during today's session, we are working on the last step in Section 1 of the 2026 Define Planner, our umbrella goal planning. To support this process, we have also created our Define Planner Companion Workbook. It is free and it's available if you go to our TikTok profile. You can print it out or use it on your tablet. So I've been hosting these classes with Caitlin weekly, and I am going to be posting our schedules as to when I'll be on TikTok Live every, I think I said Saturday. So make sure to always check out our live TikTok events, register so you get notified. Good morning, Jenna. Good morning, Jill. Good morning, Shauna. Now, today what we're doing is walking through the umbrella goal planning page and talking about how to break down your goals on a monthly and weekly basis. So what this class is doing is actually building directly on the work that we've already done together. So in the Balance Your Plate, we looked at where our time and our energy are going. In Define Yourself, we identified our values, motivation, what brings us joy and meaning. And then in the Define Your Year, we got to look at how we want to move through this next chapter, followed by personal mission statement, where we brought it all together. And most recently, we created our vision board together to help us visualize the year ahead. So now it is time to bridge the gap between where we are and where we want to be through actionable items. The last thing I want to share before we start is that this is an interactive class, so always feel free to write your answers in the chat, ask any questions, and enjoy this time together. So let's dive in. Let's focus first on our worksheets. So keep your planner with you, but grab our umbrella goal planning worksheets as well. I'm actually going to flip back in our Define Planner to our personal mission statement and our vision board. So I'm going to be having this, I'll just keep it right here for the moment. We'll see where it ends up. But I want to first explain to you all what an umbrella goal actually is. So an umbrella goal, it's a long-term goal, and it helps you to stay connected to your purpose over time. And once you reach it, you are not just checking off a task. You're actually strengthening a part of your life that matters to you. An umbrella goal answers the question of, what am I intentionally working toward this year in this area of my life? And lastly, umbrella goals are long-term by design. I personally like to set them for about a year because they give enough time for growth without creating pressure to rush. So we'll talk a little bit more as we go through this as to how you want to go about your umbrella goals, but I just wanted to make sure that that was a clear starting point. One more distinction for you all is that your umbrella goals, I want you to think of these as your direction. Your monthly action items will become your focus, and your weekly action items become your follow through. I'm saying that now. I will be coming back to it, but just as a reminder, that is what it is about. Okay. Now, let's dive in to step one, the focus areas. So I'm going to be using different colors so it's easier to follow. We'll start with black, but then we'll break it down as we go. So here's what we're going to be doing is starting with your focus areas. So take a look through your section 1 in your defined planner, because you want these focus areas to come directly from the patterns in all of the work that you've done. And so taking a look through define yourself, define your year, start to recognize your values, your personal mission statement, your priorities for the year, which we listed in the define your year page, as well as any themes that are coming up in your vision board. I'm so happy to hear that. Someone said I absolutely love the journal that their hubby got them. This is an all-in-one. I'm so excited. Are you joining us today for our Classes with Caitlin session? Now, what I want you to do is focus on what words, ideas, or your needs that keep showing up. Health is a huge one that I'm noticing. And you want to notice these repetitions because these are going to tell us where our energy needs to be going. So I want you guys to take a look through section 1 and see what's coming up to you. What is constantly popping out and you really want to spend more energy and time on in 2026? Let me know in the comments what you're noticing. I'm going to do this alongside you. So I'm going to put this to the side so I can easily reference and write at the same time. I am noticing that health and wellness is a big one. And more specifically, I'm going to write my health and wellness routines. I keep seeing the word routine pop up. The reason we have these worksheets too is to help you walk through the process of it, not just setting them. So, creativity, relationships, and growth. Those are 3 strong ones. I'm noticing meaningful relationships. That was a big one in my priorities and my vision board. And I'm going to fill out all 6. You don't have to, but I want to walk you through the process. I'm also noticing personal creativity and hobbies. Hey, Grains and Mains, you're catching us live. Yay, I'm so happy you're here. It's amazing to look at your vision board and see what pops out to you through the different images, words, and sayings. Let's see. I'm also, a huge one for me is that purposeful work. And keep in mind, there's no right answer here. It's going to be different for everyone. That's kind of the beauty of it. Also, intentional use of time. That's really one I want to work on. And personal growth. That is step 1. A reminder here is that you don't have to choose every single thing that you're seeing. It's really just noticing those top 6. That's what I want you to focus on. Because in general, focus areas, they're really about priority, not potential. That's a big reminder to keep in mind. Next. And again, if any questions come up as I'm on here, please let me know. Take your time with this. If you need to go over anything, never hesitate. This is your safe space to get that clarity that you might be looking for. Joy, how would you define it? For step 1 for a focus area, honestly, I would write joy, because you'll notice it's about, we're not at the step yet of fitting it into a pathway, which we will be in a moment, but you want to just start with joy. I think that's huge. If I were to look at a pathway, I would probably say 2 could fit. Just joy, yes. Now, in terms of where you want to find this joy, that is where step number 2 will come in. So match focus areas to pathways. So this is going to allow us to connect each focus area to the pathways that are in our umbrella goal planning page. So these pathways are going to include fitness, career, health and wellness, relationships, financial, and personal development. So what I want to do here is start by creating a balance and prevent us from putting all of our energy into just one area of life. So this is a stepping stone. It is completely okay if multiple focus areas fall under the same pathway. You do not need to have every single pathway listed in here, because this is designed to help show you where most of your energy and attention is going to be going. So I'm going to start with I'm just going to go in order. It makes me think of, because Jenna just asked how joy would go. So for joy, I think you want to ask yourself where you want to find this joy. I'm thinking for you, it might make more sense to do personal development, and then that focuses on a range. If you're trying to find joy when you are connecting with your family, with your friends, that could be relationships. There's a lot of different ways to go about this. Those would be my top 2 when it comes to joy. I'm curious which one you're going to find that it aligns with. Some of mine are more straightforward than others. So for here, health and wellness routines. That's going to fall under health and wellness. For sometimes it's nice to just cross them off as you go about it, so you know. Oh, I love that. Jenna said, I don't know, I have a lot of joy, I just want to continue. Well, that's beautiful. That's actually really exciting to hear. Is there a part that you maybe are finding less joy in? Maybe then it sticks to personal development so you can get that, or health and wellness. It depends on our approach to joy, because when I think of joy, yes, I do think of our experience with others, but a part of me thinks about the mental aspect of joy and how it connects to being present. So part of me is also leaning to health and wellness. Meaningful relationships, of course, would be our relationships pathway. And you just repeat this process through each, so that way as we keep building, you know where they'll go in your planner. Then I'm going to write personal creativity and hobbies. Now for this one, I'm going to put it under personal development. Ooh. A lot of mine are more straightforward because we did build off of our vision board, and I noticed a lot of themes throughout it. So 4 is going to be purposeful work, and of course that's career. Then we also have intentional use of time. Now, this one's trickier because I could see it going under career or personal development. So if I take a step back and think about where I want to see the personal development happen in my life, I think that I'm seeing it more in terms of a daily routine style, not necessarily just career. So for intentional use of time, I'm actually going to put it under personal development as well. And then personal growth. Kind of is a little bit, it's honestly looking like everything here. Personal growth is a theme that I saw for focusing on that well-rounded and to enter a new chapter into life. So personal growth would also be under personal development. Now you'll notice I have that repetition. I have listed health and wellness. I have listed career. I've listed a lot of personal developments, and I have a relationships listed. I did not write financial or fitness. That is okay. You do not need to cover every pathway. Now, how are we all feeling with step number 2? Are there any questions as we're doing this? I want to take a moment and check in with you guys. Jill, how are you feeling with this? Grains, Jenna, Shauna. You have a lot of health and wellness. Okay. Or, excuse me, I'm assuming your Joy went into health and wellness. I think that's a good one. I think that that'll connect you more with that mental health aspect of being present and maybe tap into an area that you haven't thought of. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing your answers with me, everyone. I really appreciate it, by the way. Okay. I want to make sure that we're all ready to move into step 3 together. Because step 3 is actually the name of this class. It's the umbrella goal planning one, right? So this is where we get specific with our umbrella goals. So for this, what you do is you are going to carry these different pathways into step 3. So before we do this together, I do want to take a moment and just remind you that when we are writing our umbrella goals, your umbrella goals should feel achievable within a year, motivating, and aligned with how you want to feel, not just what you want to accomplish. So Shauna and Jenna have told me both that they want to focus on that joy. That's incredible because that taps into the feeling they want to move through the new year with. So I want to walk you through exactly how to go through how to write and identify your umbrella goal. So there's a few ways you can do this. I like to focus on asking myself 3 questions. The first is going to be, what area of my life needs intentional attention this year? That is what this pathway spot is all about. So that is where you get to ask yourself, okay, I'm looking at step 2. where we identify the pathways we want to focus on. Health and wellness is the first one I have listed here. So I want to start in health and wellness. I like to go in order. You do not have to. This does not symbolize importance. It's really just a good way to break it down. So I'm going to use that same blue pen, and I'm going to write down my first pathway that we're tapping into. Health and wellness. So if health and wellness comes up repeatedly for you, maybe there's a reason. Have you been feeling like you're less consistent with it? Because maybe that's part of the reason why it keeps showing up over and over again. So you want to make sure that you're focusing on that consistency, not just transformation. Another one could be, for example, let's say relationships appeared a lot. You could focus more on connection this year rather than obligation. So the reason I want you to walk through question 1 being what area of my life needs intentional attention this year is to ensure that your goals are rooted in need, not just noise. So that is the first step. And we've already identified these in step 2, which is really important to remember. Now, the next question I'm going to have you ask yourself is more of how do I actually write my umbrella goal? And that would be, how do I want this area of my life to feel? I'm going to grab a pink pen for this. So the reason I keep bringing up that aspect of feeling is that your umbrella goals are going to be most effective when they are feeling based and identity driven, not purely outcome based. So I want us all to rephrase the way that we ask what our umbrella goal is going to be. This is important. Instead of saying, what do I want to achieve? I want us to ask ourselves, how do I want to show up in this area of my life? So for example, instead of saying, let's improve how I look, it would be focused more on, let's build a routine that supports my well-being. And that is actually what I want my health and wellness umbrella goal to be. I want it to be focused on build consistent routines. Is this clear to everyone? I want to make sure you're following along. Here's the important part. Again, how I mentioned, instead of focusing on the looks, we're going to focus on the physical and mental well-being. Okay. Let's say you want to focus on your relationships more, right? That's actually our next example. So this fits in perfectly. Instead of saying, I want to see my friends more, I would say strengthen meaningful relationships. Oh, Jenna just asked a great question. Joy is in health and wellness. Can you guide me through that, please? Absolutely. Let's do it. So, with joy, I want you to start by asking yourself, you already did this part. So, you've already asked yourself where in your life joy needs the most attention. We decided health and wellness. Great. The next one I want you to ask yourself is, how in your health and wellness do you want to feel with joy? So, for example, how do you want joy to show up on a daily basis? It could be, instead of I enjoy every moment, it could look more as I show up, or nope, let's think about this. I am more present in my mindfulness practice. Or I guess I'm trying to narrow down into, in health and wellness, where you want that joy to show up. That is going to be the first step in identifying the umbrella goal. Because this is a little bit of a trickier goal. So I'm actually really interested to see where we take it. In your daily activities. Okay. Let's think about this. So let's take a step back. Health and wellness is about focusing on your mental, your physical health in terms of your overall well-being, right? So how can joy show up in our daily activities in terms of mental and physical? Jenna said, and enjoying the little things. Okay. Let me take a moment and think. Because in this case, it is about, you know what? I'm going to flip this over just because it's easier sometimes if I'm writing things down. So we want to focus on, so we know that the end feeling is joy, right? We know that we want to feel this in our health and wellness life. Now, health and wellness is mental and physical well-being. You also mentioned that you want to focus it on your daily activities and to find more joy in the little things. Okay. So that tells us a few things. I think what I'm noticing is, what does joy mean for you in this? Jenna said maybe focusing on living in the moment and looking for the little things throughout the day. Yes, I was going to say, because joy can mean a lot of things, right? We often think that joy is this high that we live on where everything is great. We're living through rose-colored glasses. But it sounds to me like you are really narrowing it down to finding peace in the moment. Through almost being more content with where you're at and what you have. So I'm wondering if we take what you just said, because I think that's great. Focus on living in the moment. Oh, wait, you loved that? Okay, great. Because the reason being is I think that this is how you want to feel, right? However, I think it's going to be hard to break this down. I think finding peace in the moment through contentment will allow you to break it down easier. Meaning 1 week, which we'll tap into in a little bit, but so we'll come back to this when we're breaking down goals, because I think that this is a really important one. So let's stop there if you're happy with this umbrella goal, And I'll just keep going with listing out some of the other examples I wanted to make sure to explain, if that is good with you, Jenna. So for the relationship pathway, I'm going to strengthen. Absolutely. And yes, Ayana, these are our Define Planner Companion worksheets. They are available if you go to our TikTok profile. We're going to write for relationships, strengthen meaningful relationships. How do we want to do this? Through intentional time and presence. And we have here 6 and 6. So you want to repeat this process for each of these pathways and the focus area. So the next one's going to be personal development. More specifically, focusing first on personal creativity and hobbies. So we want to break this down into a more specific umbrella goal that we can work on throughout the year. That is the true why behind each of these. So pathway personal development, create space for regular, nope, I wrote this backwards. I meant in my head, I was saying create regular space for, what am I trying? Oh, creativity. I would say hobbies because that is what our focus area is. But I'm also going to list it as personal growth because that is what this is all about. Then I'm actually going to focus first on those personal developments, and then the last one will write career, but I like to group them. So personal development would also be intentional use of time. So what you'll notice I did here was I actually combined purposeful personal growth with personal creativity and hobbies because these go hand in hand in my case. So it doesn't make sense to have another personal growth goal when I already have it listed with creativity and hobbies. Absolutely, Lee. I upload all of these recordings to the tube. Great question. So instead of having intentional use of time, because that's less of our umbrella goal, let's make it be move through. Nope, actually, we're going to have it be improve the way I spend my downtime. Lastly is going to be the career one. So you'll actually notice what's funny is earlier I mentioned how there's 6 and 6. In this case, the way that we moved through it was by combining. So it's actually 6 and 5 because these two don't need their own. They are really combined. So the last one I wanted to go here was career. We had written purposeful work. Well, how can we turn that into a goal? What is it that we're trying to achieve? We are going to make this be do purposeful work that reflects my values and supports long-term growth. See how we're actually getting that growth in as well? Amazing. And a couple words that if you're feeling like, oh, how do I actually start this goal? How do I write the umbrella goal? A couple words that I did use that I would recommend are build. That's always a good word. You want to start with verbs. So build, strengthen, which we also used. Let's see. Create. Those are 3 really good ones. Some other ones could be prioritize. Here, I'm actually going to write strengthen instead of improve. I think it's a stronger word. That is the word I would recommend. Improve sometimes has a negative connotation with it, and I don't want that in my umbrella goals. I want it to be that positive, something to work towards rather than dwell on. Okay. Now, what I want to do is move into step 4. If we're all feeling good about where we're at. Amazing. So let's dive in to step 4. Step 4 is going to be focusing on breaking down these goals into our monthly and weekly action items. I just want to make sure that we're all happy with our goals and that we understand how to set them. It's important that once you have them written down, when you look back at them, you feel excited and motivated and they seem doable. If they don't, it's not that you did anything wrong. You just might want to come back and adjust your language. And, oh, Jenna, yes, I haven't seen any comments from you. Oh, no. That's so frustrating. Okay. Let's see. Maybe. Okay, maybe now that'll work. Okay, you have intentional use of time under career suggestions. Amazing. That makes sense. How would you write it? Okay. I would write it as strengthen. I have to write things down. That's the way I work best. So when I hear this, I think that it sounds to me like you want to be more productive in your day and spend your time, like you said, with more intention. So I would use the word strengthen. I would say strengthen my productivity. And I actually think I would use this phrasing, be more intentional with how I spend my time. That's a great goal. Oh, sorry, it's not on the full page. So if this resonates with you, let me know. I turned intentional use of time for your career pathway and to strengthen my productivity and be more intentional with how I spend my time. Because I like to tap into that feeling a little bit. So at the end of the day, you want to feel like, oh, I was really intentional with where my energy was going. And I feel like I moved through today with purpose. Jenna said, perfect. My teacher brain isn't braining today. That is a-okay. Honestly, it's kind of nice because we get to walk through them together. And maybe it would help too. I want to make sure. Casey said, I love being able to have these sessions. I have used the uploaded tubes. They totally help me out. I'm so happy to hear that. I actually then, this discussion before we move on to step 4, like I said, let's take one step back and I want you to ask yourself a couple things when you've written your umbrella goals. I want you to think about an alignment check. So let me write this down here. So once you're done, I want you to do an alignment check. So this alignment check is where you are going to take a moment to just read your umbrella goals out loud or quietly to yourself. Okay? Ask yourself, does this goal connect back to my values and my vision for the year? Look at your vision board when you're doing this and see, are these connected? Another question is, does this support the person I want to be, not just what I want to do? This is where I would suggest, if it does feel a little disconnected or forced, to rewrite it using softer, more supportive language. The second component to checking your umbrella goals is the feeling check. I know, everyone's favorite feeling a lot. The feeling check. Oh, yes, I can absolutely repeat that. Let me re-go through the alignment check. So these are the 2 questions to ask yourself. Does this connect back to my values or my vision for the year? Let me grab, you know what? I'm just going to grab a notebook. Maybe visualizing it will also be good. So instead of writing it just down here, let's talk a little bit about this. So this is going to be, we'll call this umbrella goal checkpoint. Oh, sorry. So the 3 components to this checkpoint. The first, we're calling the alignment check. So, hold on, I spelled that wrong. The align. Yes. Okay. Jenna said that the writing is great for screenshots. Absolutely. The alignment check. The questions I want you to ask yourself are, does this, again, when I say this, I do mean umbrella goal. So I'm just going to write, does this umbrella goal connect back to my values? And or my vision for the year? The second question is, does this support the person I want to be, not just what I want to do? Okay, that is the first alignment point, the alignment check. The second, we're going to call the feeling check. And for this, oh, Shauna said, I do have 3 different types of vision boards from last year until this year. That is A-okay. That's exciting. Look at all of them. Take into account how you want to feel. Which one resonates with you? So I want you to ask yourself the feeling check of, when I read this goal, do I feel encouraged? Or pressured? Now, I'm writing the word pressured here because I want to make an important distinction. Your goals are designed to challenge you. If they don't challenge you, then you won't find that growth. So when I say the word pressured, I don't want you to think that means that your goals should not motivate you or challenge you. I am using the word pressured here because I want to make sure that your goals feel like something you are doing because you genuinely want this for yourself, not that outside should have perspective, okay? That's one clarification I wanted to make. The second question, does this goal feel supportive on both good and hard days? It's those hard days that you are not going to want to make the progress. But those are the days you want to. Those are the days I want you to challenge yourself to do the hard thing. Oh, someone said, my therapist likes to say, don't shit all over yourself. Oh. Wait. Anyway. The next step is going to be 3. This is going to be the sustainability check. Oh, okay. I thought you were just like playing a little joke on me there. I see. Yes, yes, yes. That makes more sense. Thank you for that clarification. Don't tell yourself these shoulds. That's not going to serve you. The sustainability check is going to be, Casey's like, yes. Okay. The sustainability check is asking yourself, would this still feel worthwhile if progress is gradual? Because we are not going to find instant gratification with these. So it's important that you are motivated to work on these goals, even though it's not going to happen overnight. Then there's one more thing I want to check in with you guys on, and that is the translation check. This translation check is going to be similar to what I talked about with Jenna, is can I easily imagine what this would look like on a monthly and weekly basis. And weekly basis. Also, Ashley asked, when will the softbound be back in stock? I have one and now my husband wants one too. So our softbounds, we only have Scenic Valley left in stock. There is no restock for this round of planners. The other option would be an undated for softbound. The last question that I just wrote is, can I easily imagine what this would look like on a monthly and weekly basis? These are the 4 steps that I like to do when it comes to checking in on my umbrella goals and the way that I wrote them. So if you want to screenshot this, I encourage that you do so now. Jenna said these are amazing checkpoints. Okay, I'm so happy to hear that. I'm glad we took the time to write them out. And I also want you to remember that if you do adjust your goals during the checkpoint, during the exercise, that does not mean that you did it wrong. Okay, I can't emphasize enough. I think it's a great thing because it means that you're listening to yourself. And these umbrella goals and umbrella goals in general are meant to evolve as you grow. I like to think about my umbrella goal as like a steady hand on my shoulder rather than this huge weight on my back. That's how I like to think of it. Okay. I think that was a good exercise. You have 7,896 screenshots on your phone. Okay, maybe one of your goals should be to digital declutter. That might be a really good one, actually. That might help you find that joy that you're looking for. I'm also, just so I can feel like I did put it, I like to have it finished. The sustainability check. It's on your list of to-dos. The translation check. Ooh, before your vacay. Okay, I like that goal. I like the timeline. Now what I want to do is move into step 4. Now, with the worksheets, you'll notice that we do allow you to break down a bunch of your umbrella goals. I'm going to be focusing on a few. I'm not going to fill out both pages here today, but if you want me to help you guys break down yours or anything in specific, please let me know. That's what this is all about. So I'm also going to flip my planner now into the umbrella goal planning page. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that, Maritza. And Ayana, I've recently posted a TikTok video as well, giving exact instructions on where you can find these worksheets. So I think that that will help you because it's hard for me to talk about on here with the restriction. Absolutely. Okay, now we're going to go into the umbrella goal planning. This I'm going to highlight so you guys know that this is what I'm working on. And we actually give an example too on these worksheets. And what the overall purpose of breaking down your umbrella goals is doing is that it's making them livable. And a lot of people overcomplicate this step. So we are going to keep it simple and realistic. So what I want you to ask yourself here is, for your, let's see, how do I want to write this? Okay, let's do it this way. The breakdown is where you struggle, Greens. Okay, let's talk. So here's how I like to think about my umbrella goals. I take it as, we're going to also use the examples here, and then we will get to Jenna's as well if she would like. I'm going to start with our health and wellness. Okay, so the first one I'm going to write down here is health and wellness. And I'm actually going to use some colors here because why not? So our umbrella goal we had determined was, you know what we're going to do here is I'm going to go blue for pathway focus and umbrella goal because we've already identified them. And then I'll use pink for monthly and weekly action items. So our umbrella goal is build consistent routines that support my physical and mental well-being. The way that I approach my monthly action item is I ask myself the following question. I'm going to grab a red pen for this because it'll, I think, clear things up. So when I go about my monthly action item, let's take a look. Let's just take one step back. I wanted to walk you through this actually before we go through our own example. Is up here, we had chosen to focus on personal development and an overarching umbrella goal that takes 1 year. Of reading 12 books this year. Then what I like to do is break it down in this way. Your monthly action item is where you ask yourself, what can I focus on this month that moves me closer to my umbrella goal? That is how I approach my monthly action item. So, how am I going to approach reading 12 books this year? Well, if we break it down, we could set a reasonable monthly goal of reading 1 book this month. Hey, Mandy, when you go to our TikTok profile, you'll find a spot that says define. You'll click on the spot and then it will bring you to, yes, and it's called the Define Planner Companion Workbook. So we know that if we were to read 1 book a month, we are going to reach our goal of reading 12 books this year. Now, you would want to break it down one step further. And this is where I like to ask myself, what can I do this week that supports my monthly focus? Or this week that supports my monthly focus. Then here we saw that we are reading 1 book this month. What is a realistic goal that we could set for ourselves on a weekly basis that would help us reach this monthly action item? Well, if we set a goal of reading 25 pages a night, we will reach our reading goal of reaching 1 book this month. So that is the process that I walk through to set up my monthly and weekly action item. Now let's do a walkthrough using the goal that we were just talking about. Health and wellness. Let's build consistent routines that support our physical and mental well-being. Okay, so that is our overarching goal that we want to accomplish this year. What can we work on this month? What can I focus on this month that moves me closer to our goal of building consistent routines? If we take a step back, and again, the key here for this goal is consistent routines and well-being. So if I think of where I want to find that growth, I would immediately think of a simple routine that builds consistency. And I also like to tap into the time of day I want it to take place. So I would focus on, in a month, establish a simple, that's a key word here, simple, morning or evening routine. And I'm going to add the word wellness in there because I do want to account for the well-being approach, or evening wellness routine. Then, and I'm going to walk you through this in your planner in a little bit here, but this is the way that I like to go about it before we tap into the planner portion. So on a monthly basis, we are focusing on establishing a simple morning or evening wellness routine. Okay. Well, if we then think about what are we going to do throughout the month specifically to reach this monthly action item, what are you going to do each week? That could be a couple of different ways. If we wanted to start with, this is the one that we're actually currently working on in real time with our TikTok Live Plan with Me's. We're really focusing on the evening aspect of things. So we're going to focus on evening wellness routine. But more specifically, let's focus on move our body intentionally. That's the key word here. 3 times this week. Now, I want to do one more thing here because this is going to help you break it down into 1 monthly action item, 1 weekly action item. But let's say you have another weekly action item that is going to help you focus on your mental well-being, because this one really focuses on your evening. You can use this next spot here. It doesn't have to just be for another umbrella goal. You can also focus on this exact example. So this pathway focus could still be health and wellness. Now here we were focusing more on that physical well-being. Let's focus on the mental well-being. So build consistent routines that support my physical and mental well-being. Again, you guys, make sure if there's any specific examples or anything like that you want me to walk you through, I'll be happy to do that next. I want to check in on you guys. How are we feeling about this? I know Grain said that she tends to struggle a little bit with them, so I want to make sure that we eliminate that. So I'm going to put our monthly action item here as establish a simple morning or evening wellness routine. Now, here we focused on the evening. Is there another thing that we could do on a weekly basis that would help us reach this goal? Let's tap into that evening one more time. Let's also journal before bed for, let's say, 10 minutes. What this helps you do is narrow down your focus. So what I'm going to do now is I'll do another one of our examples, but I also wanted to tap into Jenna's for a moment. Let me find where I wrote that down. So let's talk Jenna's goal here. I'm curious if your wording is any different, so let me know. I have your pathway focus as health and wellness. And I have the umbrella goal as find peace in the moment through contentment. I'm trying to does that make sense? Yeah. I want to also make sure that Jenna's not getting blocked, but just let me know if that's the correct umbrella goal that you have written down as well. Okay. Find peace now. We want to ask ourselves, if this is our goal for the year, what is our monthly action item? What can we focus on this month that will move us closer to this goal? And this goal is really focused on feeling. So I am thinking that a lot, when I think about why peace tends to be interrupted, my first thought is our social routine, our social consumption, media consumption. So I'm wondering if in order to find peace in the moment, we reduce our screen time when we are, if you're focusing on with other people, I know you're going on a trip. So maybe we narrow it down to even more specific for January because you are going on a really fun trip that you want to make sure that you are present for. So what if our monthly action item is to limit our daily screen time? How does that sound, Jenna? Would that, do you think, help you reach this goal? Serenity, yes. We're going to write limit/reduce. The reason I added in the word reduce is because this actually gives us a more goal-like focus. Because I want you to take a look at what your current screen time is at, and I want us to judge our progress, not judge, but compare our progress with the end results from this month. So reduce screen time. Then I want us to take it one step further and see on a weekly basis, how are we going to do this? Okay, what is one thing that you can do this week to reach this goal? I would recommend using the different features. A couple things. The first would be you can actually set your screen time limit. I would do that. Per app. The second is have a cutoff point where you aren't picking up your phone. Actually, okay, I want to find a way to write this because I know that you are a mom and that means that you probably want to have your phone on you. So if someone needs you, you want to make sure that you're able to be in touch with. Let's actually change that to let's do a cutoff point for all other apps. In terms of texting is fine if it's like your family, but let's focus on being more intentional with what time we are picking up our phone. So let's say there's an app for that. Perfect. I want this to be, how can we word this? What if we did, for me, I use my cutoff time really as 9 o'clock. So I'm going to write 9 o'clock, pick a time that feels best for you. 9 o'clock, we're going to cut off screen usage. For our phone. Oh, I combined some words there. Again, not necessarily the messaging portion for family, but kind of the noise of it all. That is a great example of how you can do this in a realistic way that allows you to see what works and what doesn't work. Maybe you set 9 o'clock and it turns out, that's a little bit not, that time isn't serving you. Great, change it. It's through trial and error that you'll start to learn, but I do encourage you guys to set for a couple weeks a certain time and see if that's going to work. Yes, I love that feature. Putting your phone on Do Not Disturb. It only allows your kids' and husband's calls and texts to go through. Such a good feature. It is utilizing those resources to find what is going to help us reach that goal. The thing that's important to remember is your weekly action items should feel doable. Even on those busy weeks, if it feels too heavy for that week, scale it down. I also want to take one more example. Let's look at, let's see, what do we want to look at next? Let's look at I did health and wealth. Let's do a personal development one. So I'm going to put our pathway as personal development because I did have a few of those. Let's choose create space. Yeah. Or, yeah, we're going to do that. Create space for, I did mean regular, I always do this. Create regular space for creativity, hobbies, and personal growth. So, what can I focus on this month that moves me closer to my umbrella goal? Well, if our umbrella goal is creating that regular space, we want to make sure that we have set aside time to accomplish a hobby, a creativity, or that time for personal growth. So I'm going to ask myself, what is a hobby that I would want to work on? So I'm going to choose one hobby to focus on this month. I don't have to decide it right this second. Now, if I were to do this in real time, when it comes to that weekly action item, that is when I would want to choose that one hobby, that first week that I'm starting it with. So I'm going to add my weekly action of, let's choose, we're going to start with 1 time a week or 2 times. 2 times a week. Spend, let's say, 45 minutes on this hobby. Because if we do that consistently, we will reach this goal, and over time, we'll make progress on our umbrella goal. Does that make sense to everyone? Because that is how I like to go through breaking down my umbrella goals into action items. And the next part of this class that I want to go over is the planner connection and how you add it into your planner. Amazing, Jenna. So here's what we're going to do next, because I get a lot of questions on breakdown in your planner. So what we're going to do is I'm going to use one or two pathways actually as our top example. You will want to transfer over your umbrella goals that you have on here into your umbrella goal planning page. But for the purpose of this class, I'm going to focus on two of them. So I'm going to focus on, let's see, which one is speaking to me? Probably health and wellness. Because one thing to make clear is that the power of the system that we have designed in our Define planner is the implementation of it into your planner from section 1 to the monthlies to the weeklies. So I want to walk you through a specific example. And again, always feel free to ask your questions as well. That's what this is for. So taking a look at what I want to focus on is I'm going to actually transfer in our health and wellness pathway. So I'm going to write this in my planner as well. So that health and wellness goal of build consistent routines that support my physical and mental well-being. And then the other example that I'll want to focus on is, I think the hobbies one is calling me. So I'm going to just add into the personal development, the last one that we wrote. So let's write our umbrella goal of create regular, I did not forget the word this time, space for creativity, hobbies, and personal growth. And if I was doing this on my own, I would keep going with the umbrella goals that I had written out earlier with you. But let's flip to January. So we're going to start with the monthly page in terms of our goals. So what we are going to do is we've opened up to our monthly calendar. We're going to ask ourselves, what pathway do we want to focus on this month? So in this top left corner, you'll see this month's pathway focus in a box. This is going to be where you list the pathways that you're prioritizing. So for January, actually, I think I might have said personal development, but I'm thinking we do health and wellness. So I'm going to write health and wellness. I'm going to do it in the pink pen for no reason other than why not do a little color, right? Let's actually do health and wellness first, because that's really what we're tackling, and I know a lot of us are. So then on the bottom right page, you'll see a box that says, break down your umbrella goals for this month's pathway focus into monthly action items. You've already did this step in your worksheets. So this is where you transfer over any umbrella goal and monthly action item that you want to focus on. So let's do that. Health and wellness, our umbrella goal, which we actually just listed out as well in our umbrella goal planning page. But if you didn't do the worksheets, you would flip back to your umbrella goal planning page and choose what umbrella goal you want to focus on. In our case, we are going to focus on build consistent routines that support my physical and mental well-being. Then you're going to take that monthly action item, which if you didn't do the worksheets, I would encourage you to ask yourself again, what can I focus on this month that moves me closer to my umbrella goal? In our instance, we have decided that we are going to be establishing, I'm thinking we start with, let me pull this in front of me so you can see. I had listed 2 answers to this, and when I look at this, I could choose to just focus on one. These 2. However, I might combine them both because that seems like a great opportunity. That is for our weekly. Ignore what I just said. So sorry. I jumped ahead on myself. So our monthly action item is establish a simple morning or evening routine, wellness routine. Okay, now this is where I get a lot of questions. I also like to draw an arrow just to show that these go hand in hand. Now, one of the most asked questions I get is, well, is that it or can I add in another goal? The beauty of this is you can add in as many goals as you would like. So ask yourself, once you've identified your first pathway, do I want to focus on more than one pathway this month? And let's say that yes, we do. So I'm going to add in personal development, and just so it's easier for you to visualize, I'm going to do it in the blue pen. So I'm going to write personal development. And yes, permission to add multiple. And I'm going to follow the exact same process that we just did. Create regular space for creativity, hobbies, and personal growth. And again, breaking it down one more time to see what we can do this month. Well, we're going to choose one hobby to focus on. Okay. Now, here we've set up our monthlies, and then we're going to flip to the weeklies. We're going to go to the current week. You always notice they get broken down further and further as the month goes on. That is exactly what I want to hear, Jenna, because that means you are making progress, and that is incredible. Because the reason why you'll notice that happening is that once you start to notice what works, you'll want to keep that up. So you'll narrow down your focus once you really hone in on what works for you and what changes you want to make. So up here in this top weekly box, you'll have a similar box. It says this week's pathway focus. That is going to allow you to choose, let's say, the first pathway that you want to focus on this week. And we're going to use health and wellness. So I'm going to flip back and again, carry over health and wellness. Then what you do is you carry over your monthly action item that you want to work on. And ours is establish a simple morning or evening wellness routine? And then what you'll do is, this is when you also break it down into the weekly action item. So we have already identified this. But again, if you haven't done the worksheets and you're trying to write your own, ask yourself, what can I do this week to support my monthly action item? So the first one is we identified as in the evening routine to move our body intentionally 3 times this week. So I'm going to break this down into move my body intentionally. Oops, I meant to write 3 times this week. Peyton asked, I bought the Softbound B5. Does it have monthly tabs? Tabs are available separately. They are in our Purposeful Planning Pack, which are number 8 in your carts. So if you have a B5 size planner, you'll want to go with the medium size stickers. If you have an A5 size, you would go with the small stickers. Now, this is when you can ask yourself, do I want to stop there or do I want to add in another weekly action item? The answer that I'm thinking that we do is actually add in a second weekly action item. So I like to do an arrow to symbolize each action item. So our first, move my body intentionally 3 times this week. The second that I was looking at is going to be the journaling component. So we said evening journal before bed for at least 10 minutes. So I'm going to draw another arrow right here. And I'm going to write down journal for 10 minutes before bed every night. Now, we have decided that we can do 2 weekly action items. This, just like your monthly, is the opportunity for you to see, do I want to focus on another pathway? Just because you focused on 2 this month does not mean you are required to focus on it every week. You can, but if it feels like too much, if your schedule is not going to allow it, you do not have to. So in our example, we are not going to focus on our personal development this week. We are really going to focus on our weekly action items. So the last step is going to be, how do I add it into my schedule? That is going to be a big component, and it really wraps up the last step to your goal planning, because you want to make sure that you are scheduling time to accomplish these goals. So I want to do that now. That is going to be the last step here today with our umbrella goal planning. This is the execution portion. So look at your actual week and decide, where do these fit realistically? Goals will only work if they are supported by your time. You have to give the time to it. So if I looked at my schedule, and we're going to imagine that this is all filled out already, I would see that Monday night, I have time at 5 o'clock to do an at-home workout. Plus, let's say 10 minutes on the walking pad. Now, the way that I'm going to set this up is then I'm also seeing, again, we're focusing on evening time. That's when I'll be more inclined to actually do the fitness or the overall health and wellness goal. So I would also notice, okay, well, tonight at 5:30, I would do a longer walking pad, so probably a 30-minute walk. And then you want to find one more day that you could get in that daily movement. And again, start with 3. You could always start with 1. There's no right or wrong answer. It's what's going to help you build that consistency. So the 3rd, we're going to choose to be Wednesday. So this time slot could be a little later even. So at 7 o'clock, I'll do a leg at home workout. And let's do 20 minutes on the walking pad. So that is how we've already stepped in with scheduling it in on a daily basis. Now, the one other thing I do want to mention is how would I keep track that I'm journaling for 10 minutes every day before bed? There's so many different ways you could go about this one. I'm going to do it in 2 ways. The first is I'm going to write a little reminder in the bottom of my evening box. So I'm going to do a little check box that says journal. So I like to do things in multiple places, so I'm getting that positive reinforcement. So journal, 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 and you guessed it, journal. Then the one other component I do recommend is seeing if your goals are trackable. Meaning, can you flip back to those trackers and use any of the trackers here to build that consistency? I noticed the fitness tracker. Great. You could keep track of your fitness here. Daily routine. I would write journaling before bed. It is these types of things that help build repetition and momentum. So I would write here, just to be clear, you can use our accountability stickers that are going to give you a key for, let me actually show you what those would look like. So for example, if you were to grab the accountability stickers, you could use this fitness tracker to organize your activities. So I would do here, I had listed out walking, so I would grab the walking icon. I had also listed legs, so I would grab any of the leg icons here. I would also grab a weight just for overall lifting. That is what I would keep track of here. Now for the daily routine, another great option for you could be seeing what is on the accountability sticker sheets, which I would grab the journal. So those are going to be the different ways that I make sure to schedule in those weekly action items. And that is a wrap on our umbrella goal planning class for today. Overall, what this system is going to help you do is move forward towards your goals without burnout. Because remember, you're not trying to do everything. You're not trying to do everything all at once. You are choosing what matters most and supporting it with intention. So I just wanted to take a moment, wrap up this class. If there's any amazing, Jenna said, thank you. These are always helpful. Well, I want to thank you. Thank you for being here. You did such meaningful work today and throughout our classes with Caitlin. These small steps in your planner are what create momentum. So I want you to come back to section 1, continue using your planner throughout the year, and give yourself permission to evolve as the year unfolds. Things will change. Let it. And once again, thank you for spending this time with me. And as always, keep navigating each day with purpose. Bye, everyone.